once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. Damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight, don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase, so catch me if I fall.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Full Time Sport Network. Welcome to the new Premier League show. This one is going to be a transfers so far show, so it'll be updating on all the confirmed transfers, all of them. No here we goes. This is all rubber stamped by the Premier League, so they're all able to play for their whatever club they've signed for. So we will go through one at a time. We'll give you a little bit of information about a player, if they've been released and whatever, if they've gone and signed for a new contract for someone. And for players that have been released and haven't signed a new contract, there will be an update in a later show when they have signed a new deal, because a lot of them don't tend to sign a new deal until the 1st of July. So there will be updates throughout the whole transfer window on all the released players. So this is everything so far, and surprisingly for a lot of people who are losing their minds because there hasn't been any signings for your clubs, only 19 players have signed for a new club in the Premier League so far. So it's big up to Moss. I like that chant. Here we go. It is a common one in England for when you go on day trip. Here we go. So let's get into this, because I don't want this to be a very long stream. I want to update you on every team and every player that has left or come in. So we're going to start with Arsenal after this one comment. Norway 0-0, 16 minutes played. Okay, thank you, Moss. So we're going to start with the Arsenal. So far, there has been only outgoings. However, Kai Havertz, I believe, will either be announced tonight or tomorrow at some point. So, yeah, just keep an eye out for Kai Havertz being announced. So we're going to start with Nicolas Moller. He has signed for St. Gallen, undisclosed fee. Then we're going to start on Sack, or 19-year-old centre-back has been released. Joel Idaho, 19-year-old winger, has been released. 22-year-old George Lewis, also a winger, has been released. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, 25-year-old midfielder, released. Matt Smith, 22-year-old midfielder, released. Tom Smith, 21-year-old goalkeeper, released. Khalil Green, just down there, is an 18-year-old striker. He has signed a contract with Colchester. Alexander Kovacevic is an 18-year-old goalkeeper. He's been released. Tino Kwamina is an 18-year-old left back, and Matthias Roberts is an 18-year-old midfielder. Let's go on to Aston Villa. There's only been one in, one out. With Aston Villa, Yuri Tielemans has signed a free transfer from Leicester City. Obviously, he's 26-year-old midfielder, and Ashley Young is 37 and a fullback, stroke many other positions for Ashley Young, but he has been released at Aston Villa. We'll move on to Bournemouth. They have signed Hamid Traore from Sassuolo for 21.9 million. He's a 23-year-old midfielder. We'll go on to the release players. Jefferson Lerma, 28-year-old, has been released, now signed by Crystal Palace. We'll obviously get into that when we get to Crystal Palace. Jack Stacey is a 27-year-old right back. He has been released, gone to Norwich City. Junior Stanislas is a 33-year-old winger, released. And Will Dennis has gone on loan to Kilmarnock. He's a 22-year-old goalkeeper. We'll move on to Brentford, who have actually made 4 signings. Mark Flecken has signed from Freiburg. He is a 30-year-old goalkeeper for £11.1 million, believed to be David Raya's replacement. Ethan Brierley has signed from Rochdale for an undisclosed fee. He is a 19-year-old midfielder. Kevin Shard, 21-year-old forward, signed from Freiburg, 21.3 million. Obviously, was on loan at Brentford last season. And Romeo Beckham has signed for Brentford B team. He's a 20-year-old right midfielder, just like his dad. The outgoings, Pontus Jansson has signed for Malmo for an undisclosed fee. Saman Ghoddos has been released. He is a 29-year-old striker. 27-year-old Tariq Fosu, he's a left winger. He has been released. And a 28-year-old Joel Valencia, left winger, has also been released. We move on to Brighton. They have made 3 signings. Mahmoud Dahoud has signed on a free transfer from Dortmund. 27-year-old midfielder João Pedro has signed for £29.2 million from Watford. He's a 21-year-old striker. And James Milner has signed from Liverpool on a free transfer. He is a 37-year-old utility player. Outgoings, Alexis McAllister has joined Liverpool for £35.8 million, 24-year-old midfielder. You've got Antef Tsunugugi. Do apologise, I've absolutely butchered your name. He has joined to Feyenoord on a free. There is no fee for that. 20-year-old centre-back. And James Beadle has gone to Oxford on loan. Let's move on to Burnley. They have signed 2 players. Jordan Bayer, who was on loan at Burnley last season. He has signed on a permanent from Mönchengladbach for £12.8 million. 23-year-old centre-back. And also they've signed another centre-back in Dara O'Shea, 24-year-olds, for £6.7 million from West Bromwich Albion. And Ashley Barnes has been released, and he has now since signed for Norwich City. Move on to Chelsea. Yes, there's been a lot of talk about ingoings and outgoings, but the official ones are these. Christopher Nkunku, 25-year-old midfielder, has signed for Leipzig for £51.2 million. Kendry Paez signed from Independiente del Valle for undisclosed fee. Doesn't officially join Chelsea until 2025, but he comes into this transfer window. But yeah, he will have 2 years development elsewhere. He is a 16-year-old midfielder. And Dujuan Richards has signed from Phoenix Academy on undisclosed fee. 17-year-old right midfielder from Jamaica. Now, the official outgoings are these, and these are official because, as you can see, Koulibaly, who has just been announced officially, is already on here. So these are the official ones. There is a lot more to come, but these are the official, as in the Premier League have rubber stamped them. So we're going to start with N'Golo Conte. He has signed for Al Ittihad on a free. He's a 32-year-old midfielder. Dujon Sterling has joined Rangers on a free. 23-year-old right back. Tamuni Bakayoko has been released. He's a 28-year-old midfielder. And Kalidou Koulibaly has today joined Al Hilal for £20 million. He is a 32-year-old centre-back. We'll move on to Crystal Palace, who have signed Jefferson Lerma from Bournemouth on a free transfer. Obviously, 28-year-old midfielder. Players released is James McArthur, 35-year-old midfielder. Luca I always struggle saying his name. I do apologise. Milo Vucevic has been released. He's a 32-year-old midfielder, and Jack Butland, who was on loan at Man United, has been released but since signed for Rangers. He is a 30-year-old goalkeeper. Move on to Everton. No incomings for Everton. They have sold a player in Niels Nkunku, who has signed for St Etienne for 1.7 million. They have released Yerry Mina, 28-year-old centre-back, Andros Townsend, 31-year-old right midfielder, Asmir Begovic, 36-year-old goalkeeper, Einar Iversen, 22-year-old midfielder, Tom Davies, 24-year-old midfielder, and Isaac Price is a 19-year-old midfielder, has now signed a deal to sign for Standard Liège in Belgium. We'll move on to Fulham. Joe Bryan has been released. He is a 29-year-old left back, played his on loan at Nice last summer. Liverpool, they have signed Alexis McAllister from Brighton for 35.8 million. As I said, 24-year-old midfielder. They have released Roberto Firmino, 31-year-old forward. 28-year-old midfielder Naby Keita has been released and has since signed for Werder Bremen. James Milner, 37-year-old midfielder, released, since signed by Brighton. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has been released. He's a 29-year-old midfielder. Calvin Ramsey, right back, 19-year-old, has signed on loan to Preston. And 19-year-old goalkeeper Harvey Davies has signed on loan to Crewe. Right, we'll move on to one of the newly promoted teams. Sonny Bradley, 31-year-old centre-back, has been released. Henry Lansbury, 32-year-old midfielder, has been released. And Harry Isted, 26-year-old goalkeeper, has been released but has since signed for Charlton. Man City, no ingoings, no outgoings whatsoever. Man United, yes, there is more to come on Man United. Obviously, Iqbal has signed for Utrecht, but it's not official. It's not 100% official yet. So that is not on the list. It will be when it's all signed and sealed. Ethan Galbraith, 22-year-old midfielder, has been released. 31-year-old centre-back or right back, left back, wherever you want to put him, defensive midfielder. Phil Jones has been released. Axel Tuanzebe has been released, 25-year-old centre-back. 22-year-old defender Dijon Bernard has been released. 18-year-old goalkeeper Eric Hambury has been released. He is an 18-year-old goalkeeper. 20-year-old right back Charlie Wellens has been released. And 18-year-old striker Manny Norquette has been released. Move on to Newcastle. They have signed one player who has actually gone out on loan. They have signed Yankubo Minty. They've signed him for £6 million from Undenze. He has since joined Feyenoord on loan. He is an 18-year-old right winger. As terms of outgoings, we've got Harry Barkley. He is a 19-year-old defender. He has been released. Niall Brookwell, 21-year-old centre-back, released. Kieran Clark, 33, centre-back, released. Dan Langley, 22, goalkeeper, released. 23-year-old midfielder Matty Longstaff, released. Right back, 20-year-old Joe Oliver has been released. Defender Josh Stewart has been released, 19-year-olds. 22-year-old forward Isaac Westendorf has been released. And finally, Chris Wood has signed for Nottingham Forest for £14.5 million. Funny enough, we now go to Nottingham Forest now. They have signed 31-year-old striker Chris Wood from Newcastle for £14.5 million. Will Swan has left. He's gone to Mansfield for undisclosed fee. He is a 22-year-old striker. Jack Colback, 33-year-old midfielder, has been released. Jordan Smith, 28-year-old goalkeeper, released. Andre Ayew, 33-year-old striker, released. 30-year-old Cafu midfielder, released. Jesse Lingard, 30-year-old midfielder, released. And Lyle Taylor, 33-year-old striker, released. Sheffield United, and the final new boys. Jack O'Connell, 29-year-old defender, released. Billy Sharp, 37-year-old striker, released. Ender Stevens, 32-year-old left back, released. 21-year-old right back Kyron Gordon, released. And we move on to Tottenham. They have signed 23-year-old right winger Kulusevski. Obviously, he was on loan last season from Juventus. They have signed him for 25.6 million. Released has been 30-year-old right winger Lucas Moura, 21-year-old midfielder Jamie Bowden, 20-year-old fullback Callum Cisse, 21-year-old right back Malachi Fagan Walcott being released. 19-year-old striker Roshan Mathurin has been released. Marquez Moore, 20-year-old centre-back, released. And finally, Romain Mundell, 20-year-old midfielder, released. We move on to West Ham. Outgoings, Arthur Masuoke has signed for Besiktas for £1.7 million. He's a 29-year-old left-back. Manuel Lanzini, 30-year-old attacking midfielder, has been released. And lastly, we get into Wolves. They have sold Ruben Neves to Al Hilal for £46.9 million. They have sold 21-year-old midfielder Zhong Zangbin to Minnesota United for £2.1 million. They have released 34-year-old Diego Costa striker, 36-year-old midfielder João Moutinho, 21-year-old midfielder Michael Agbola, 20-year-old striker Lee Harkin, 20-year-old midfielder Jack Hodnett, 20-year-old right back Luke Matheson, 21-year-old midfielder Taylor Perry, and finally 20-year-old midfielder Jack Scott, who has since signed for Linfield. So they are all the signings. So it's as I've said, I missed all the chats because I was reading through all the players. So I'm now going to go back and come back to you guys. Right. So the Bobby does look like FPL site. That is the Premier League official site. That is the official transfers. So once the transfer goes through, it goes straight onto the Premier League website because it's an official one. It's rubber stamped by the Premier League, so it's official. Emery signing, Emery Tillerman's nice. What Villa Emery rumour signings? I don't worry about too much about other rumours because it's not my club, and to be fair, there is more rumours than what are true. It's just madness. Shade Brentford record signing. I hear, yes, it is. Big up to my pod bro, Branny. Hope you're doing well. Good that Dirty MacArthur and Palace guys hyped about Lerma. Should be, to be honest. That is a good signing for a free. Begovic, Bosnian Canadian. Yes, he is. Who have Man United bought? Oh, wait. As I said, Colm, at the beginning of the show, only 19 signings have been made in the Premier League. 19. It's not many. There's going to be so many more. So, look, this week will be busy. I guarantee it. And Cole getting all excited about Billy Sharp. Billy Sharp. Guys, as I said, this will be done weekly. I don't know exactly what day, but it'll be this quick. So yeah, it's just going to be an update on where people have gone, how much people have paid, how much people have gone for. It's just official transfers. Obviously, because we do a lot of Premier League watch-alongs on here, we will be doing like previews, reactions to the results from the weekend, and previews for the weekend games. So this is the new Premier League show. Hopefully Colm will be back to do them at some point. Obviously Colm's in a little bit of a unable to do stream situation at the moment. So big up to Colm. We are missing you, mate, I promise. But guys, that is it. And I will be back definitely for next weekend for some more watch longs for the quarterfinals of the Euro 21s. Big up to everyone. But yeah, and I will be back at the Armory at some point this week with Arsenal news Tuesday and Friday for sure. But I've got a feeling I'm doing a breaking news one tomorrow. So watch this space. Guys, really appreciate it. I will be back very soon, as always. Take care. See you later.